Hello and welcome to episode 3 of my datapack tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over custom enchantments, which are very cool. So, first thing that you want to do is you need to make a new folder for it inside, as you can see here, inside of data and namespace. So, inside of your datapack, if you don't already have a data one, you can just make one. I made it in the second episode of this tutorial. And you also need this file, which was also in the second episode. So yeah, data, and then you can name your namespace whatever you want. You can actually have multiple namespaces per data pack. This one doesn't count. This is something special I'll get to. I made a bunch of example enchantments that I will show off at the latter half of this video, but I'm going to make a new one here. So inside tutorial, which is the namespace, and then enchantment right here. So let me just delete this one. You can make a new one. You can just type it out, of course, but I would highly recommend using this website that I've shown off before because it makes it very simple and a lot easier to do. So I'm going to make an example one. You can name it whatever. I'll just set it to test. I'll do that. Exclusive set is stuff like mending an infinity on a bow. Basically, I think I can show you them real quick. If I can find them. They should be in here. Under enchantment tags. Okay, here, you can see this. So, for example, the bow exclusive set is infinity and mending. Anything in this set that you set it to, you can't have more than one of them on an item. And you can make your own exclusive set, I'm pretty sure. I haven't tested it, but I'm pretty sure you can just name it whatever. So yeah, supported items is what the enchantment can go on. I'll just do a sword to show off. And you can do a specific sword, you can do all swords, and you can do enchantable slash sword. The difference is if someone's making a data pack, they might choose to add it to just this, and then you might want to do this. But I think these are both the same in vanilla. Primary items, and you can hover over these I to show what it means. Primary items is, as you can see, what it shows up when you put it in the enchanting table. Like, for example, in Elytra, it supports enchantments, but it doesn't work in the enchanting table by default. I will set this to show up as well. So I'll do enchantable sword. And then the weight is how likely it is to show up in the enchanting table. The value goes up to 1024, but I'll show you a default one if it loads. You can go to presets and see all the vanilla ones. So something like knockback, for example, has a weight of only 5. Even like the common enchantments like unbreaking are still only 5. So you probably don't want to set the value too high unless you want it to be very common. And if you want it to be rare like mending, you can just set it to 1. I think or mending is 2, I guess. So I want this one to be pretty common. I'm going to make it like really common, just so it's easier to test and show off. But when you're making a real enchantment, I would recommend just choosing an enchantment that you want it to be similar to, like in terms of how often it shows up, and just using that value. Max level is how many levels the enchantment has, and it'll add it on after this. So I'll just set it to 3, just for showing off. And then this is the cost of enchanting it in the enchantment table. You can see for something like, whatever I set this one to, I think mending. I'm not really sure what these values mean. They're definitely not XP levels because it only costs 3 XP levels max. But you can just kind of base it off what they cost to, I guess what you would do. And I'm not even sure what I put per level above first because it only has a max level of 1. So maybe it means something else, but I would again just recommend copying it from something else. I'm gonna copy it from Unbreaking just for testing. Just Unbreaking, yeah. So I'll just do 5 and 8 and then 55 and 8. And the anvil cost is if it's on like a book, or I think if you're combining it with another item, it's the cost multiplied by the level of enchantment. So you can see the anvil cost for Unbreaking is just 2. I'm just gonna set it to 1, but it doesn't matter that much. Slots is what slot in your inventory it has to be in for the effect to take place. So because it's a sword, I'm just going to do in hand, so it'll work in your offhand or main hand. And here is where pretty much everything is for effects. Just for this example one, I'm going to make a knockback one, because that's really simple. So you can choose the effect, you can press plus, and then usually plus again. And then this is like what you're going to do to the value that you choose. So if I set it to add, then I'm going to add this value to the knockback. And because I have a max level of 3, instead of choosing constant, you probably want to choose one of these other ones. For example, if you choose linear, you can choose like to start at 1 and then per level above first. So if I set this to 2, and I'm going to change this, the name of this too, just so it's clear. Knockback plus. So knockback plus level 2 would then have 3 knockback, which is cool. And you can also do lookup tables if you just want to set them for every level. It's just in order. This is level 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can set as many. Level squared is self-explanatory. You can do a fraction if you want to. And clamped, I'm not really sure what it is. It has a minimum and a maximum, but yeah. Constant plus is even more useless. I don't think it does anything. At least I've never seen it do anything. So for this one, I'm gonna do linear. So and I'm just gonna look at what the default is for knockback to get an idea of how strong it will be. So just 1 is pretty strong, it seems. But this is knockback plus, so we're gonna set it to 2 because it'll be really overpowered. And requirements is kind of complicated, or at least it looks intimidating, but basically if you only want the effect to happen, if you want to test for something before it happens, like you can do it'll only work when you're on ground. And I'm going to go over these later in the video because they're kind of complicated. So yeah. And if you click on that button and don't set anything, it doesn't actually go away, but I don't think it matters if it's empty, so it should be fine. So then you're just going to copy it, or you can download the file if you really want to, but I prefer to just make a new text file. And whatever you name it here is the ID of the enchantment, but it's not the name. The name is what we set at the string up here. So I'm just going to set it as knockback plus, and it has to be a JSON file. And then edit it, and I'm just going to do Control V, and then make sure you save the file. And then, because of how the enchantments work, you actually can't do /reload for them to take effect. You have to reload the world, or if it's on a server, you'd have to restart the server. So I would recommend doing this in single player, just for testing things. So now, if I give myself any sword and do /enchant, you can see these are all the example ones. But right here is the one we just made, tutorial knockback plus. So I'm just going to do level 3. And then if we summon something, you can see it has extreme knockback. So yeah, that's an example one. And the rest of this video, I'm just going to showcase every effect. And I'll go over some of the requirements too, but I will put some chapters in the video, so if you just want to look at like a specific effect, you can just skip to it in the video, because I don't know how long it'll take me to go over all the ones I made. So yeah. Alright, so let me just put some music on with my egg. First one, wait, let me just turn it down a little bit. Okay, that did not turn it down. Okay, I'm gonna show you all of them on the wiki. There are different types of ones. We have effect components, and then there's attribute effects and entity effects. Whoops. Okay, I don't know how it was still playing. I'm not gonna play music. It's too distracting. But anyways, effects components are the ones I'm gonna go over first, mostly. I did them alphabetically, so I might be skipping around a bit, but I saved the weird ones for last, which are the entity effect ones. So I'll get to those at the end. So, the first one I can show you is ammo use. So I made this bow called Unfinity, and I have opened the code for it here, right here. So I set it to ammo use, and I set it to 2, which means it'll use 2 arrows at once if you're in survival mode. So you can see it shoots 2 arrows, and you can pick up one of them, but you still lose an arrow, which is, it's not very good. Next I have anti-armor, which is basically what the breach enchantment is. In vanilla it's only used on the new mace, but you can put it on anything. It's armor effectiveness. It's basically how effective the armor is of the entity you're attacking. So here you can see the first one is it's 75% effective, then 50%, and then 25% for level 3. So it won't be very effective. And I have this little dummy zombie set up, which is just, I'll show you. You can just summon a zombie and give it NoAI. And I won't go over how to do this one, but if you want to make a similar thing to these, you can use MC Stacker and /summon, and then you can just check the NoAI, and you can give it whatever you want for armor. So, as you can see, I hit it with the anti-armor 1. It only does 2 points of health. With this one, it does 4, and with this one, it does 6. So yeah, that one's cool. Next, we have growth, which I definitely didn't steal from Hypixel Skyblock. Growth is this one actually uses the attribute, which is very useful. And it's the same way that you do in the item components. So if you watch the first tutorial, you basically already know how to do this. But you can additionally use the level in the value, which is pretty helpful. So here I have it set to affect the max health, and then I made it linear. So the first value gives you +2 max health, and every level was also +2. So as you can see, let me take off my helmet. Growth 1 gives me +2 health, which is 1 heart. Growth 5 is 5 hearts, and growth 10 is 10 hearts, which is cool. Next, we have another attribute. I set this one to be multiple attributes, which you can just do. On the website, you can just press the plus here to add more. This one it affects 4 different things. The main one is the scale, and then I also apply the other one so that you are like actually changing size. And I made this one a curse, which I will show how to do. I'll just show you right now. It's pretty simple. You have to edit the tags. Tags is a separate folder, and they're basically just groups of anything. As you can see, there's tags for basically everything in the game, but we just want the enchantment tags. And as you can see, there's a lot. I went over the exclusive set ones earlier. These ones you can all ignore because they're not in the game yet. They're an upcoming villager experiment that they're probably never going to add. But this one is curse. So what you want to do is go into your files and tags. These kind of tags don't go in your namespace. You have to make a new folder named Minecraft. And then in that one, you have tags and then enchantment tags. So I have one called curse. And then these all look the same on the inside. They're just a curly bracket and then values and then normal bracket with a list of enchantments. So this one I have all my example curses that I've made. But if I wanted to add the curse that we just made earlier, I could set it to this, knockback plus, and then save the file. And then you have to reload the world. And now, the sword that I made earlier, I think I got rid of it, but if I give it to myself again, it'll show up red. And the other thing that curses do is you can't remove them with a grindstone. So they're like permanently on the item, which is interesting if you wanted to do that. And then there's some other ones here. In enchanting table is pretty useful. I will go over that in a bit, but you just set the one in enchanting table and then it shows up in the enchanting table with all the weights and levels that you set earlier. If you don't have it in this tag, even if you set these values, it still won't show up in the enchanting table. But because I set the growth one in the tag, if I enchant some armor, let me get some new armor. And I set it to be pretty high, so I'll probably get it over a few tries. So there we go, we have growth 1, and it does work, which is pretty cool. So, other than that, some other tags you might use is on random loot. They can be found in any like chests. Traded equipment, villagers can sell them on equipment. It doesn't mean they sell the books, I don't think. Or maybe it does. You'd have to test it. Yeah, I mean, most of these are self-explanatory. Mob spawn equipment means mobs can randomly spawn with these enchantments, which is cool. Some of these are special. Prevents ice melting, which is just silk touch. These are all just specifically used for silk touch. Yeah. Oh, tradable is how you do just the book. So if you wanted to be able to trade the book of your enchantment, just make a new tag and tradable and put it there. Okay. The next one is minify, which I'll just put on to show you. Oh, I got rid of it, but I can give myself a new one. If I wear it, it makes me really small, and you also jump barely anything, so that's why it's a curse. The only upside of this is that you can fit in really small spaces, but other than that, it kind of sucks. Next we have block experience, which I can show you here. Block experience. This one just gives you more XP when you mine a block that normally gives you XP. So if I give myself quartz, is it quartz ore? It's just quartz. Okay, it's not quartz. Here it is. If I build a little test here, you can see with XP Miner 1, I will get a bit over 4 levels. But if I use XP Miner 3, you can see I get up to 6 levels. So if you want to make enchantment that gives you more XP, you could do that, which is neat. Next we have dullness, which is damage. Damage is, it can do a lot of things, so I'll show you. It can, I mean, it really just sets the damage of the weapon, but you can set it to a negative value, which I have here, which is why it's a curse. So you can see I'm basically doing no damage, especially with dullness 5. Even if I crit out the zombie, it barely does any health. It's doing way less than 1 damage. There we go. So yeah, you can do that, and I'll show you the code for that one. As you can hear, I set it to -1, and then per level of -0.5. There we go. Next we have damage immunity. This one can actually do a lot. I kind of lied about damage doing a lot. Damage immunity doesn't have any like inputs. It only takes this requirements. So now I'll go over what they are. For this one, you really just want to set damage source, and then you can choose tags. You can see all the types of damage. So for this rubber one, I just set it to is lightning, and then true, and then it makes you immune to lightning damage, but not the fire. But you can also, oops, you can do a lot of things with this. You can do multiple too. So say I wanted to be immune to, let's see what's on this list. Say I want to be immune to drowning. I'd have to do all of, then we can do multiple. So I can do immune to drowning, but you also have to meet this check. So then for this one we can do, I'll just do a flag. Immune to drowning, but only while swimming. So if you stop swimming, you'll start drowning. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. I might make a tutorial on just this as a predicate, because they're pretty useful for many different things, not just enchantments. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with them, so I think I will. But for now, I'm not going to go over them too much. Next we have aero graphite falling, which is like the lightest material that science has made. It's just really strong feather falling. This one, the effect is damage protection, which is similar to damage immunity, but it only lets it go up to 80% damage protection. So, yeah. And this one again takes the predicate, and you have to set the type of damage. So, yeah. And I set this one to 20, which is actually the max. Each value is plus 4% effective. So this one is 80% no damage when falling. So if I teleport myself like 50 blocks up, I won't take that much health at all. I mean, that was a lot of health, but I don't even have any other armor on except for a helmet, so it's really good. And this is Feather Falling 4. I was going to show you a comparison, but I'm too lazy. Fragile, this one is, let me check, item damage. And I skipped over a few that I'll show you in a bit. Item damage just lets you set the durability. It can be a negative or positive value. And keep in mind, if you're using this website, right now it's outdated because this morning they actually changed the name of it to, let me see, this one might not even work. It should be, I'll show you. should be item. I forgot the name of it, but it's change item damage is what it should be. I think this one still works though. Let me just give myself more health. So you can see it has 47 durability, and if I guess I'm in adventure mode. If I mine a block, it'll go down to 43. You can see 39. And you could technically set it to a negative value, which would then heal the tool if you wanted to. Next we have let me see, projectile count and projectile spread. Projectile count is just a number of projectiles, and you can do linear if you want. It applies to, I think, most projectiles. It doesn't work for tridents, but I think it works for bows and crossbows and snowballs. I'm not sure about ender pearls, but it definitely works for bows and crossbows. That's the most important. So let me give myself some arrows. This one is only the item or the count. If you just have the count, they all kind of shoot in the same area. So if you're going to do something like this, you probably want to also include the spread. So here I have projectile count and projectile spread. And this is in degrees between each projectile. So if I shoot this one, I'm just going to shoot 10 projectiles with 2 degrees in between all of them, which isn't that much up close. But if I shoot it far away, you can see they do actually spread out eventually. While this one pretty much stays together the whole time, except for a bit of randomness. Which is cool. Although you should keep in mind, enemies can't take more than like 1 damage per tick, so it's not that useful. Unless you add some extra commands to make it actually damage them, but it's just fun. Next we have, this one is, let me see, oh, this is where I got into the special ones. Before I get into that, I skipped over a few because they were too simple to actually make an example out of. The ones I skipped are crossbow charging sounds. This one lets you set the sound of a crossbow. You just set the ID of the sound for the start, middle, and end, if you wanted to do that. There is also crossbow charge time, which I couldn't get to work. I think it might be broken in the snapshot, or they changed it recently, but it's just quick shot, or whatever the enchantment is called. There's also equipment drops, which is just the chance that the equipment drops when the entity is killed. I think this only works if it's on a mob, and it's a value between 0 and 1. 1 is 100%. And this is also, I think, just using looting by default. Yeah. But, yeah. Next we have fishing. Fishing luck bonus is just luck of the sea, and fishing time reduction is just lure. Next we have knockback, which I showed at the beginning, is just knockback. Mob experience is the same as block experience, but for mobs, so they drop more XP when you kill a mob with this. We have prevent. Prevent armor change is cursive binding. Prevent equipment drop is cursive vanishing. And those will both work on any entity, although mobs can't take off their armor anyways, so not that useful. We have projectile piercing is just the piercing crossbow enchantment. I think it might work for a bow as well, though, if you wanted to do that. Repair with XP is just mending. The default for mending is just 2. They have it set to multiply too. I'm not sure why it's multiply if it's only one level, but yeah, that's what mending is. There is smash damage per fallen block. It only works on the mace, and it's just a density enchantment, so it's pretty useless because, I mean, I guess if you wanted to combine it with something else for a custom mace enchantment, you could. Trident, there's 3. Trident return acceleration is loyalty. Trident sound, you can set the sounds for the trident when you throw it, if you want to. And trident spin attack strength is the Riptide. If you have this, it just enables Riptide, basically. But you can also set the attack strength. Okay, now we have the special ones, which are entity effects. No, they're not. Here, they're components with entity effects. So they should be. Let me find them. I think. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, there's 4 here, and then there's one underneath. But this one is a special one. It's one of a kind. So I included it with the 4 other special ones. We have hit block, which is when an entity hits a block, either the player or a projectile. But it doesn't count when you break the block, it's just when you click on it. So this one, it meows when you click on a block. And I set this one, let me show it. This one is play sound. I'm gonna actually go over all the effects for these special ones too, which I will start with. Let me go back to this one. So when you do any of these 4, including location changed, I think, like hit block, there's a special list of effects here that I'm going to go over all of them. And these ones are pretty useful effects. First we have all of, which just lets you do multiple effects. Then there is, oops. Here, apply mob effect lets you apply an effect to the mob that you're hitting, or whatever. This is, if I set it to hit block, it won't do anything. If you want it to apply to a mob that you're hitting, you have to do post attack, which I'll get to in a bit. But here I have this stick, and I set the effect to levitation for 5 seconds, so it flies up, and then it'll take fall damage. So it's kind of cool. Next we have damage entity. Here we go. Damage entity, which lets you damage either the player attacking or the enemy being attacked. So here you have to set the enchanted and affected. Enchanted is who has this enchantment. So if you want to damage an entity that you're attacking, like an extra type of damage, the enchanted is the attacker, which is you, and the affected is the victim, which is the mob. If you wanted something like thorns, the enchanted is the victim, because you're being attacked, and the affected is the attacker. And you can do both. For this example, I made a sword that when you use it, it hurts you. So I set both to attacker. I mean, it still hurts the mob as well. So you can see here it hits both of us, which is funny. Next we have the damage. Where is it? I guess I did them out of order. Change item damage. Oh, I guess they updated the website. while in the last few hours. Now it is accurate. It is change item damage. So yeah. And I was wrong earlier. The item damage here is correct. It's here that it was changed in the effect. So ignore what I said earlier. Hopefully you're watching this part of the video still. Change item damage just lets you change the durability of the item, and again you choose the attacker or the victim, I think. Yeah. Might be a bit broken because it should take a number, I'm pretty sure. I'll show you in the code. Yeah. But here I have it set to... No, that's the wrong one. Here I have it set to change the damage by 0. Is that right? No, I read the wrong thing. Okay, it changes the item damage by 1, which is technically -1. So, and I set it to the tick effect, which just runs every single tick, which is useful for if you want like particle effects or you want to check for something every tick, you would use that one, which I will get to more into a bit. But yeah, I think there should be a value here. It might be a little bit broken because they just updated it. Let me see if I reload it if it changes. It doesn't look like it, but anyways, it just looks like this. It's just an amount. So this item, and it only runs the tick when you have the item equipped. So when I have it equipped, every tick it loses 1 durability. So I gave it the fading curse. It's kind of annoying. It like constantly is bobbing down in your inventory, so you can't really see the weapon. I don't know if there's a way to fix that, but I don't know why you would ever use this anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Here we have nitrogen triodide coated armor, which is like, it's a substance that explodes, or it has like a violent reaction, just with a not very much touching it, I guess. That's badly explained. I'm not a chemist. But it's basically just explosive armor. So if I summon Spider, and I set it to 1 in 4 chance, so it's not too overpowered, but you can see it does that. I don't think it actually damages the spider that much, but I couldn't be bothered to fix that, so I would just launch it. It was just a test item. And let me show you how that one looks in code. This one, explosive, you can see it's kind of complicated because I wanted so it's post-attack, after you attack. The enchanted is the victim, and the affected attacker is the same as thorns. And then type is explode, which is the one for this one. Explode just causes an explosion, but it's really customizable, as you can see. You can set the 2 particles, you can set the sound and the knockback, and you can set the damage type and the radius and the block interaction. If you set it to none, it won't break blocks. There's a few like creeper and TNT you can set it to. So yeah. And then I also wanted it to not kill me when it blows up, so I just gave myself immunity to explosion, which is probably too overpowered, but it was just for testing. Let me put this back. Next, I showed off before. This one is just play sound effect. It just lets you play sound. You just get the volume and pitch. You probably set this to 1. Next is replace block. This one's pretty useful. Replace block, it can get complicated depending on what you're doing. You can set the block here. There's a lot of things here which I don't really know what they do, and I probably won't make a tutorial on these because they seem really complicated. They have to do with like world gen and seeds, and stuff like that. You could probably use rotate a block though and seem simple, but I just use simple state. I would recommend. You can set it to a block here. For this one, farming, I set it to farmland. And this is another effect I haven't shown off, location change. This one runs every time you cross a block boundary. So it's nice and not laggy because you don't have to check every single tick. So if I put this on, every time I walk into a new block, it sets the block below me to farmland, which would be nice, instead of having to hoe the land. Although I can fix this because it does this. I didn't know this when I was making it, but you can set a game event. So you should probably set the game event to block place, and then it will update all the blocks around it and remove stuff like that. But you don't have to, I guess, if you don't want to. There's properties. If I choose a block that has properties like a fence, you can, for some reason, you have to right-click on it to make it show, but you can set all the properties of the block. Predicate is a somewhat simpler version of the requirements. You can check what block you're replacing. By default, it's just true, which it'll always pass. But you can do like replaceable. I'm not sure what's in the replaceable tag, but usually matching blocks is useful if you only want to replace a certain block. For this farmland one, I set it to, let's see, here, matching blocks. I might have did it in the requirements here, but either way, you can set the matching blocks to dirt, and that's what I did for this one. Offset, for here I set the offset to -1. If you don't include an offset, it'll just create a block inside of you, which you probably don't ever want. So you should make sure to set the offset to something. Yeah. I think that's all the ones for this. And I also set it to change item damage so that it actually uses the durability when you move. But you don't have to do that. Next we have Lava Walker. I still have these on, which I will show off. This one is, again, a little complicated. As you can see, it's kind of long. This one is replaced disk, and I turned to the location changed. So this one, I'll just do real quick. Replace disk. This one takes a block to replace in the disk, and then you set the radius and height of the disk. I would just keep the height as 1, unless for some reason you want it to be more than that. I think it replaces it starting from you and then going down, maybe. I'm not really sure, but the radius is pretty self-explanatory. Predicate, again, it's the same as the replace block. You can check for what you're replacing. So for the Lava Walker, I am checking if it's... I did 2 checks here. First, I checked if air was 1 above the block, and that it was lava. So both of these have to match. And then it replaces it with basalt. And then you should set the trigger game event. I'm not sure. I did here. Block place. And then also make sure you set the offset for the disk being placed, so it doesn't set it inside of yourself. You should probably just do -1 if you want to make something like this. And then this works in lava. It'll replace lava with basalt. Although keep in mind, the way Frostwalker works, it replaces it with frosted ice, which automatically turns back into water. But these won't turn back into lava unless you do some extra work. You'd have to like make a function for that. So if you want to make it more realistic, you might have to do a bit more work. But by default, it just says it just replaces the blocks, which is cool. And this is a nice trick. I don't remember where the portal is, so if you want to teleport to dimensions, you can do execute in and then a dimension, and then run TP. And then you can do coordinates in that dimension, which is nice. Let me fly back to my shulker boxes. Okay. We only have a few left. Next we have run function, which is probably the best one that there is, but I'm not going to go over it too much because haven't made a tutorial on functions. I'll show you it though. It's pretty simple. It just takes a function to run, and a function is basically a list of commands to run in order, but they can get pretty complicated and you can basically program stuff with it. So here I made a function called example, and inside of it is just one command. It'll execute as at s. At s is the selected entity, which is basically just itself. And because I'm running it from projectile spawned, when a projectile is spawned, it'll run from that projectile. So the projectile itself is going to say hello in the chat, which is nice. But you can do some pretty complicated stuff with this, but I'm not going to go over that in this tutorial episode. Well, I will show you one nice thing. With this one, because it's just running a function, if I change this function and make sure to save the file, you actually can do /reload for this. So that's a nice thing. That's the one thing you don't have to reload for custom enchantments. Next we have set block properties. This is similar to like the debug stick, or at least the way I made it is. You can just set the block properties and you choose the block property and then the value to set it to. So here I set it to waterlogged equals true when you hit a block. Let's see here. But it can get more complicated if you want, if you were to set a requirement. But I didn't do that for this one. So this one just waterlogs a block when you hit it. Let me find a block that I can actually waterlog. So if I hit this, it'll waterlog the block. And it doesn't update the block because I didn't set it to do any game events. So it acts exactly like a debug stick. But you can't undo that. So you'd have to get a second item to do that. But yeah. Next we have spawn particles. This one says spawn particles plural, but it only lets you set one particle. I guess you could just do multiple effects, but I'm not sure why it says that. This is just all the particles, and then this one I guess just do entity position. I'm not really sure what inbounding box does. I think, no, I don't know. Either way, if you just set these both to entity position, it'll spawn a particle at the entity. So I made an example with hit block on a bow. So when the arrow hits a block, it'll spawn a particle, as you can see there. Although keep in mind, if you use an arrow with hit block, if the arrow drops and hits a block again, it'll reactivate. So that can be annoying. You might have to set up a command to kill the arrow. Lastly, we have summon entity. You can summon an entity upon one of the effects up here. I set this one to hit block again. And this one, actually I think I set this one to post attack. Yeah. I set this one to post attack and it summons lightning. So it's like a smite. I had this on a sword before, but you would take the lightning damage as well, so it's kind of dangerous to do that. So yeah, that is all of the effects, pretty much. Yeah. That's pretty much it for this tutorial. Next tutorial I'm gonna make, I think I'm gonna do custom structures or maybe custom biomes. So look out for that, and maybe tomorrow, maybe a few days. We'll see. Yeah. Oh, and also, I'm making this tutorial series for a Minecraft server that I'm gonna start, where anyone can make their own items, biomes, and stuff. So if you're interested in that, I will put the Discord link in the description of this video, and I'll put it in the previous episodes as well. and anyone can join. Although it hasn't started yet because I'm waiting for 1.21.2 to come out. So yeah.